Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Concern Podcast, where we unpack political, social, economic, and cultural stories shaping our world. I'm Emmanuel Taban, and on this section of our podcast, I want us to look at the political temperatures in Kenya, one of the countries in East Africa. And mainly, I want us to look at, the discussion here has been in Kenya that for instance, among the Gen Zs, the young Kenyan, the discussion has been that William Arab Samuel Ruto has failed to deliver his campaign manifesto. He has failed to deliver the promises that he had made to Kenyans during the 2022 general elections, which made him to be elected. And therefore, the discussion on the streets, on social media, on national television has been that his administration must come to an end. But on this episode, I want us to look at um, the possibility of people or individuals who would actually face William Arab Samuel Ruto should the 2027 elections come right now. You know, and we know that in Kenya they are going to have the next elections in 2027, and the political temperature has been getting so hot of recent because people, politicians, and individuals are trying to show themselves as better alternatives for Kenyans so they can be elected in the 2027 general elections. That's why today we have seen that a lot of people who are aligning themselves to be on the opposition side, trying to convince Kenyans that they're actually better than the current leaders that are in government right now. We have seen them forming themselves into a political coalition. And one thing about Kenyan politics is that Kenyan politics is always unpredictable. Until 2027, it's hard to know which people or which politician are actually going to be on the part of the government. I mean, those who are in government and also those who are going to be in opposition. It's only until 2027 when the general election is very near. That's when people get to know actually the right political alignment between these politicians. But right now, it is unpredictable. But my analysis will only be based on the current political formation that we have. I mean, the opposition formation that we have. Those who comprise or those who forms the current political opposition or the opposition are the people that I'm going to be talking about. Are these individuals, do they have the right attributes? Do they have the qualities to actually face William Arab Samuel Ruto in the 2027 general election? So we'll be looking at these individuals who have actually declared their candidacy, saying they are going to stand for presidency come 2027. We will look at these people in detail, their profile, their personality, their experience, and how fit they are to face William Arab Samuel Ruto in the 2027 elections. And when I'm talking about these individuals, of course, you know who I'm talking about. I'm going to be talking about one guys like Eugene Wamalwa of DAP Kenya, guys like Peter Salasya, guys like Karua, Rigathi, guys like Kalonzo Musoka, David Maraga, Fred Matiangi. These are all people or individuals or politicians who are actually on the side of the opposition right now, who forms what is known today as the opposition in Kenya right now. I'll be talking about these individuals and their experiences or their capabilities. How are they just looking at if they are fit at all to face William Arab Samuel Ruto in the 2027 election. And the first person that I want us to talk about is Eugene Wamalwa, the leader of DAP Kenya, Democratic Action Party in Kenya. In terms of experience, yes, he served in the previous government in different ministerial positions. He served as a minister of he served as the cabinet secretary for defense. He served as a minister of justice, and he is the leader of one of the opposition political parties right now, that is DAP Kenya. So in terms of experience, he got a little bit of experience. Yes, he has that, and probably that might have given him the knowledge on how government operates. He is a very calm guy, a very diplomatic, eloquent guy. That's one thing that I've seen about Eugene. And if you are a Kenyan voter and you're looking for someone who has that diplomatic and calm demeanor, then Eugene Wamalwa is the candidate for you. But one thing about Eugene, though, is that in the Kenyan election is all about numbers, and if you want to be a very serious presidential candidate, you should have first a very, very strong numbers, a very strong support base. And I feel Eugene comes from a region that so many politicians are scrambling over the voters. One, we got people who are already in government, people like Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, who claim influence over the Western Kenya. And therefore, I think him being a presidential candidate is going to be a very hard for him, because he needs to be in a coalition that has principles or kingpins that actually have or control massive numbers in terms of voters. He has to be in that. He doesn't have to be in a coalition that has minority in among the voters, you know what I'm talking about. So that is Eugene for me. He has that diplomatic demeanor, he has that calm personality, but and also he does have the experience, of course. But in terms of numbers, what numbers does Eugene brings to a coalition? That is a very big question, and I feel that it's going to affect his candidates at all. So much. That is one about Eugene Wamalwa. The second guy that I want us to talk about is the Member of Parliament for Mumias East, Peter Salasya. He is more of a joker, so many people know him for that. A content creator, a comedian, more than a Member of Parliament. And by the way, he is doing a great job in his constituency. But to me, Peter Salasya, he just came in the other year in the 2022 general election. He won it as a Member of Parliament. And to me, Peter Salasya lacks that political maturity. He still needs to go a lot. To go through a lot. He needs to learn so much about how governments operate. He needs to build himself so much. And I feel that he still has a time ahead of him. He's a very young guy. But to me, he is not the favorite candidate. He's not favorable at all to be a candidate in this forthcoming elections in 2027. He lacks that political maturity. He is seen by so many young Kenyans as being unserious, and that is Peter Salasya. He needs to develop that political experience. He needs to have influence, but also he needs to develop the financial muscle, which is very necessary in the Kenyan politics, And the next person that I want us to talk about is the retired CJ, that is David Maraga, who served as the 14th president of the Supreme Court of Kenya. Peter Maraga, he is a very, very religious guy. He is a calm guy. He is trustworthy. People trust him so much. And so many Kenyans appreciate his decision that he did, especially during the 2017 election, where he nullified the results of the election, which actually declared Uhuru Kenyatta as the president. And even after being appointed by Uhuru Kenyatta, he went on to nullify the results. And Maraga has actually attained a lot of admiration from Kenyans because of that decision that he has done. And therefore, of recent, he had declared his candidacy as well, that he is serious about being the president of Kenya. And but one thing I've seen from him, of course, is that, if you are that voter who is looking for a presidency with so much vibe, then Maraga is not the candidate for you. Yes, he is trustworthy. He has the moral authority. He is, calm. But I feel Maraga really doesn't have the political base. He is not that influential at all from his region or anywhere in the country. And he lacks the financial muscle as well. So many people might be saying that we don't need that money, but in the Kenyan politics, money is necessary because one, the political elites have actually spent much time trying to con the people that for you to be taken as a serious presidential candidate, you must have the money, and that is the narrative that they have been creating actually in so many minds of the voters. And recently, Maraga had an interview with Citizen TV with Yvonne, and what he said is that he is going to only start by giving only 1 to 2 million Kenyan shillings as part of his campaign, and he was expecting that Kenyans would contribute for his campaign, which I believe is a very, very big obstacle toward his candidate, because for you to, in Kenya, for you to start looking for the presidency position, you have to really have that financial muscle. I know it's not appropriate, but that is how the system in Kenya has been built, and therefore it will take time to actually break that system. But if you want to get there, of course, you'll have to go through it and then reform it later. So Maraga has the moral authority. He is trustworthy, but he lacks that financial muscle. He doesn't have that vibe. Yes, he is religious, but sometimes it's good to have some person who is so tough. Maraga lacks that. That attribute. He is not that tough, and I feel he really needs so much to do to face William Ruto. And should he choose to be on the ballot, then he needs to have some guy who would be a political engineer in his coalition. He needs to have some people who can finance his campaign, people with numbers as well, because he comes from a region that probably constitute less than 10% or less than 7% of the Kenyan voters. And therefore, he needs that. He needs to build on his political influence, his base, and also he needs to build a kind of like a national profile figure, because I feel he doesn't really have that. He just served as Chief Justice, but he doesn't really have so much influence in the country. And that is Maraga for you. And the next guy that I want us to talk about is Fred Matiang'i. You know, Fred Matiang'i is a very principled guy, a very tough guy, and no-nonsense man. He served under Uhuru Kenyatta as CS for education, and then later on he held actually two positions, interior and education, and at the same time. And one thing about his leadership style is that he is known for being a very tough guy, very strict guy, and he is that tough guy. And I feel that if you are a Kenyan voter and you're looking for someone who will bring reforms, order, and discipline in government, then I feel Fred Matiang'i is the right candidate for you. He has that. But you know, and so many people have a belief that Fred Matiang'i is actually being imposed by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, because he comes from the Jubilee Party. And yes, he is. If Uhuru is still behind him, then I feel he has that ability. I mean, because Uhuru still controls some part of the Kenyan, the Murima votes. And therefore, if he will be a candidate, I feel he has that ability, because one, Uhuru is going to bring in some votes from the mountain and bring it to Matiang'i. So, but one thing I've also noticed about Matiang'i is that his political past has actually been labeled so badly, because one, he is known for being a guy who actually defied so many court orders when he was the Minister of Interior, or the CS for Interior, and also the incident that happened when he was the Interior CS, where the dead bodies were drawn and found at River Yala. I feel those incidents where he defied the court orders and where dead bodies were found at River Yala, I feel those are some incidents that actually have tried to stain his political white paper, and I feel it's questionable about those actions that he did when he was the CS. He defied court orders, and also some people still hold the belief that it was Matiang'i who actually carried out the incident that led to dead bodies found at River Yala. And I feel his political past is a little bit questionable. So, but yes, he is a very tough guy, and also I feel Matiang'i actually lacked the political base, because he suddenly went quiet after the 2022 election, because apparently he went and got a job with the United Nations. He was working there, and then he only came back when the country is getting back to an election. He really lacks that political base, whereas some other principals were so much engaged in the politics of the country. Matiang'i was somewhere working for himself. He only came back, so he lacks that political base. But I also feel he also doesn't have that national profile so much. That is Matiang'i for you. But if you're a voter, as I said, who is looking for a tough guy who can bring order, discipline in the government, then Matiang'i is probably the right candidate for you. He is that candidate that can bring that order back. And the other person that I want us to talk about is Martha Karua. You know, she is the leader of the PLP, the People's Liberation Party. But initially she was the leader of NAC Kenya, but she changed the political party. She formed a new political party, I think last year. And Martha Karua, very principled lady. She's known for her name, Iron Lady. She's known for fighting for women's rights and equal representation. She's a very tough lady, principled, firm and courageous. And she served as Minister of Justice. I think that was under Mwai Kibaki. And she got the experience. She has, the legal mind. She's a lawyer, and she really has that, intelligence. She comes from one of the regions with the constitute majority of the Kenyan votes. And yes, she is a national figure, of course. She is a national figure, and that's why in the previous election, she was the running mate for Raila Amolo Odinga. And I feel Martha Karua is actually a very fit candidate for presidency because she has the political experience, she's that tough lady, she has the national profile, and she's a lady who could actually go and face William Ruto head on. Very tough lady. She's a good one. To me, Martha Karua is actually a very, very good alternative. But let's see what's going to happen when the 2027 elections draw closer. Probably the opposition alliance will front one candidate who will go and face William Arap Ruto. But if you are a Kenyan who is looking for someone who would fight for women's rights and representation, and Martha Karua is the candidate for you. If you're looking for someone who is very tough, principled, firm and courageous, then Mrs. Karua is the right candidate for you. That is my personal analysis. And the second last person that I want us to talk about is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the leader of Wiper. You know, this is a guy who actually has one of the most extensive experience working in government. He served in very many positions under different governments. He served under Arap Moi, he served under Mwai Kibaki, and I think to some extent he also served under Uhuru Kenyatta. And he is a guy who is well experienced, has over 40 years experience working in government. Started his role as a member of parliament for I think Mwingi North or Karua North, right from 1985 to 2013 as member of parliament. I mean, that is a very, very quite extensive experience. That is Kalonzo Musyoka. He served as a deputy speaker of the National Assembly. He served as the secretary general of the KANU by that time, Kenya African National Union Party, under Arap Moi. He served as a minister of Foreign Affairs under Mwai Kibaki and Arap Moi. He served twice actually as a Minister of Foreign Affairs. He served under Mwai Kibaki and Arap Moi. He served as a Minister of Physical Planning, Housing. He served as a Minister of Education. He served as very extensive experience. Kalonzo has the experience for you. He knows how governments operate. He is a very calm guy, very diplomatic guy. I mean, he has that diplomatic and calm demeanor as well. Very, very extensive. If you're looking for someone who has experience working in government, knows how government operates, Kalonzo Musyoka, I believe, is the right candidate for you here. He has that experience working in government. And he served as the vice president as well, the 10th vice president of Kenya for 5 years under Mwai Kibaki. And I think he has that experience. And one thing about him is that, of course, he also controls some kind of the Kamba votes. You know, he comes from the Kamba, and he has that influence there so much. I think he's the only principal guy right now who can be termed as a kingpin of the Kamba people, and therefore he is a kind of a candidate. But I feel that Kalonzo Musyoka lacks the control of the young people, which is very important in the coming election, because the Kenyan election is going to be determined by the Gen Z voting bloc. I mean, the younger population. So, but Kalonzo, to me, he really doesn't have that control over, the younger population, or he's not so much appealing to the younger voters, I feel, And if you want to be a president as well, you should have a very appealing call towards the younger people. They are going to be the one to determine the 2027 election. But Kalonzo lacks that. He has some kind of networks, of course. He is the leader of the YPI political party, and they have around 25 members in the National Assembly, members of Parliament. He has like around 3 senators. Very important. That is YPI candidate Kalonzo Musyoka, and I feel he has the experience. So if you're looking for someone with extensive experience, Kalonzo Musyoka is there for you. He is a very good in building coalitions. He is a diplomatic guy, and that's why in 2018, President Uhuru Kenyatta appointed him as a special envoy to South Sudan, and because of him, he actually brokered one of the peace deals in South Sudan that led to the establishment of the unity government that is existing right now in South Sudan. So he's a very diplomatic guy. He knows how to build coalitions. He's a very calm guy as well. So if you're a voter who's looking for a guy like that, then Kalonzo Musyoka is the right candidate for you. And lastly, the person that I want us to talk about is Rigathi Gachagua, or Rigiji. Rigathi has he worked as the deputy president for less than 2 years under William Samuel Ruto before he got impeached, and right now he is having so much influence, mainly from the region, from his region. The Murima or mountain. He is a guy who is very tough, confrontational. He doesn't have empathy on his opponent. He doesn't have a regret whatsoever. He can say whatsoever thing he wants to say. Very, very tough guy. He holds grudges. He is a revengeful guy, I would say. And he has the numbers. He comes from a region that actually constitutes the majority of the Kenyan voters. Over 30% of the Kenyan voters comes from the region where Rigathi Gachagua comes from. And I feel Rigiji has the influence. He has the numbers. He is that tough guy who could face William Samuel Ruto. And one thing about Rigiji is that he knows exactly where the pain button is. He knows how to deliver pain to his opponents so effectively. He knows where the button is, and when he is a good person in doing that. Very tough guy. But one thing I've seen about Rigiji as well is that, Rigiji has still pending issue in the courts because of his impeachment. So should the impeachment stand, then of course he's not going to be viable for any electable position. He's not going to be elected in any position if the impeachment stands. But if it is nullified, then he will be, a potential candidate in the 2027 election. But Rigiji of late, to me, he's being perceived as a regional leader, because all what he has been calling for, even when he was in government, is that he has been calling for support of his region. He has been speaking, just about his region, and therefore to so many Kenyans, Rigiji is seen just as a leader of the Murima, the leader of the mountain, but not to so many Kenyans. And this guy, his challenge though would be that because he controls much of the voters right now from his region, so it makes him look so powerful. But his challenge would only come when Uhuru Kenyatta insists, or when Fred Matiangi insists to be on the ballot, and Rigiji also wants to be. Of course, it's going to divide the mountain votes, because one, Uhuru Kenyatta is still having much influence in the region. And therefore, if you would want to go and stand as Rigiji, and then Uhuru fronts Matiangi, then of course the Kenyan Murima vote is going to be divided. Some are going to go to Fred Matiangi, others are going to come to Rigiji, and therefore he will lose actually that number, which has been one of his strongest or powerful abilities right now. He has the numbers. That's where he brags so much in the coalition, in the opposition coalition. But I feel Rigiji lacks the qualities of being a national leader. He's not seen as a national leader. And if you're a Kenyan leader who is looking for someone who looks at Kenyans equally, someone who advocates, then I feel Rigathi is not the right candidate for you. One, he is perceived as a regional leader. He's advocating for only betterment of the people of the Murima. That's so many Kenyans look at him that way. He's a very vengeful guy. He holds grudges for so long. I mean, he really is not that forgiving guy. That's my personal analysis about Rigathi. But he has the influence. I'm not sure if he has the financial muscle as well, but he has the influence. He is a very tough guy who can face William Arab Samuel Ruto head on, and he knows how to ignite and drive emotions among the voters, which is a very, very important feature that any politician must have. People might say it's evil, but I feel a politician must always know when and how to ignite emotions in people, because that is how you can convince people to be your voters. You appeal to the voters in that way. Try to be emotive, create emotions in them, but know how to drive it, know how to manage it. And Rigathi, I feel, it's very good in doing that. He has that, he is that person who comes into the presidency with vibes. We all know how he has been making the government of Ruto of late restless. Having sleepless night. He goes on and makes a media interview, and the whole country start talking about it. He's a very powerful guy right now, I would say, having much influence, but he lacks that feature of being a national leader. That is Rigathi for you. And yes, these are some of the guys that I feel I needed to just do a kind of analysis about him. And if you feel that my analysis has been so biased, just leave a comment on how you feel about the personality of these guys that I've talked about. Leave your comment below, and then just give your opinion as well of what do you think about these people that I've talked about. Give your opinion, how do you perceive them? But to me, that's my general analysis of this potential presidential candidate. And just for your information, I didn't talk about Raila Amolo Odinga. I didn't talk about William Arab Samuel Ruto, because these are people who are right now in government. I would say that. So I was talking mainly about people who have the potential to go and face William Arab Samuel Ruto should they remain in the current opposition setting. So I talked about these guys, and thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, leave for us your comment, and also leave for us how you feel about the analysis and how this personality, how you feel about them. And this remains the Concern Podcast, and I am Emmanuel. Thanks for watching, and see you in our next video.